Hello, friends, and welcome to I Know I Belong When, an innovation, unbiased production where bold voices, curious stories, and authentic impact amplify knowing that you are invited, seen, heard, and needed. I am your host, Christopher Bylone, Principal Strategist at Innovation Unbiased. This is more than a conversation. It is a movement, a mirror, a megaphone, one where raw truth meets radical hope. Welcome back to the show. Okay, friends, grab your drink of choice and have a seat. Today, we are turning buzzwords into behavior and feedback into fuel. Our guest does not just talk culture, she builds it. Ama Agyapong, also known as That Inclusion Lady, is the CEO of Inclusion Enterprises. She is a speaker, a master facilitator, certified EEOC investigator, and a talented senior-level consultant with 15 years of progressive leadership, human resources, strategic planning, program development, and employee engagement. With an MBA in global management, her mission is to help organizations build inclusive, feedback-driven workplace cultures where people and performance thrive. Ama has shared her knowledge with organizations like the Society for Human Resource Management, the National Legal Aid Defender Association, the Institute of Internal Auditors National and Mexico, Florida Festivals and Events Association, and numerous corporations, nonprofits, and universities. These organizations have invited her to address their members because when she is on the mic, mindsets shift and systems are disrupted. If feedback has ever felt vague, sugar-coated, or downright awkward, she will make it your superpower. Ama, welcome to I Know I Belong When.
My goodness, Christopher. What an intro. I need you just walking around with me. This was incredible. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm just reading your bio. I just made it a little fun.
I'm like, yes, girl, that's me.
It is you. It is you. Alrighty, friend. Let's get this show started. So you have been known as the feedback guru and That Inclusion Lady. What do those titles mean to you and how does it reflect your mission?
Oh, such a good question. So my mission is to create a workplace culture that people can authentically thrive, right? But through a feedback-driven environment. And so when I say feedback guru, it means authentically showing up, speaking with clarity, speaking with consistency, and speaking with care. Now, That Inclusion Lady is like my superpower. So you know how Beyonce has like Sasha Fierce back in the day? Like that is That Inclusion Lady for me. It's where I get to show up authentically, a bit sassy, and say what needs to be said in such a fun but challenging way sometimes.
Yeah, so please be pouring more tea in this episode.
Yes, will do.
Well, that's great. That's great. So your career has spent a long time shaping HR and DEI strategies. So what is that one inspiring lesson for you that you have learned about belonging in the workplace?
Oh, I would say observations are key. I often speak about how I was a horrible boss and I had to completely like transform my leadership life, okay? Or I was going to be out in these streets not securing the bag. So I often talk about how I came in and just wanted to hit the ground running from everything I was told about the team, everything I was told about metrics, and not necessarily spending time to observe and build relationships. So I would say that's the biggest thing when building policies, structures, procedures, or people, that observation and really spending time cultivating relationships is bar none the most important part.
Yeah, you're reminding me as my own start to my leadership journey. And I felt like I was the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? And I thought I had it all together. And it took some really awesome mentors and bosses to kind of like almost kind of grab me by the shoulders and be like, okay, Christopher, we need to have some real conversations with you and also point out some of the blind spots that you may have had. One of the things that I really appreciate about a recent former boss, she would talk about be mindful of the shadow that you're casting in the organization, and for the good and the bad, right? Because the shadow you're casting, you're not seeing the shadow. And so if you're not aware of how you're landing on people, you may think it was really positive, but if it isn't, how are you going to redirect and make sure that you're cultivating the environment you want to cultivate? And when some of these things were put up to me, it was like, whoa, wait a second, hold on, that's not who I am. And I needed to be like, okay, I'm landing in a way that's not intended, and that's my responsibility to fix.
Well, I love that. That's my responsibility to fix. Absolutely.
Right, because we can't control how other people are perceiving us, right? And so if they're perceiving us in one way, that is their reality. And as a leader, it's our responsibility to make sure that we're landing in the way we want it to land. And so if we have to course correct and make sure that we're being mindful of others, that's our responsibility as a leader.
Yeah, I often say, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? And
Ooh,
so, how we show up as a leader sometimes in that shadow we're casting, if you look at it, we might be right, right? We might have every reason to show up that way, and it might even be justified. But it also can be very ineffective, and that is not our
correct.
goal. So, course
No.
correcting for the greater good is sometimes very necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, keeping this show moving along because we could be talking about this topic for hours. We're now going to enter the segment of the show where we say names, because for me, names is really important on how we create belonging, because getting somebody's name right is the first act of belonging in any relationship you're building. That's why I ask for the phonetic spelling of people's names, so I make sure I pronounce it correctly on the show. So, what is the story behind your name and how has it shaped your identity?
Okay, so this is going to be something I haven't shared before.
Oh,
Um,
yay.
so the first part of it I have. My name is Ama Agyapong. Ama means born on Saturday from in my father's culture. My father is from Ghana,
Mm,
Ashanti region. My mother is from Miami, and so Ama means he or she loves. It's the verb amor conjugated. So them together decided on Amma. It works for both of them, and that's how we got this name. For a long time, I was not proud of this name. I thought my name should be Carmen because I was obsessed with Carmen San Diego. So I thought that should have been me.
dating yourself a little.
Aren't I? So I learned to love it. Ajapong is our family name, but this is the part I've never shared. So I went through a divorce a year and a half ago. And during that time, I had to decide if I wanted to keep my ex husband's last name, which my son wanted me to, or go back to my maiden name. And my father and
Mm,
I didn't always have the best relationship. So, thinking about belonging, I didn't really feel like I belonged to that last name either. So, it was a journey trying to decide, like, okay, what does this name mean for me now versus what it meant
mm.
for me later after having a previous last name. And so, that I did not think there would be so much emotional tie to just the name and getting my name back, but I decided to just like redefine it and redefine what it's going to mean for me. And so I want to lean into that, she loves. And when I engage with people, I want it to represent love, light, and connection. So that's what my name means.
Ooh, I like that. And reclaiming the space, right? And
Yes.
making sure that people understand who we are and how we show up is really important so that, we can also just live our full authentic lives who we are as an individual.
Hmm.
So, in your work, you have the power of saying somebody's name correctly in creating belonging. So, how do you see that power coming to life?
You know what's so interesting? I see it coming to life more in the mess ups than doing it correctly. And so I think
Mm.
when I am corrected by how to say someone's name, if I say it incorrectly or if I shortened it like I did yours before we got on here, right? Like all of those things, I think the humility and the connection happens in how I correct myself and receive that feedback. And so if someone corrects me on like how to say their name, or if I'm asking them and I mess it up and I'm like, hold on, wait, let me try again. I'm so sorry. I think those moments build connection in who I want to be and how I want to connect, and acknowledging that I'm not going to always get it right. You would think I should, right? Because I'm that inclusion lady, but I mess up and I want to show that humility more than anything else. Obviously, getting the name right, honoring it, saying it with the diction and the way in which they want me to say it, and taking extra time to even learn more about what it means or how it connects to their family is important. But for those people who are listening that also make mistakes because there might be a name they're not accustomed to saying or from a culture they're not familiar with, connection really happens in how you recover from the mistake.
Oh, absolutely. We're only human, right? I mean, the base of humility is human. And so we might be two experts on DEI having this conversation, but we're just two experts, right? We're just two people who are knowledgeable about this. We have our own biases that we bring to this conversation. We have our own lived experiences that have been filled with mistakes and successes, and we're going to continue to make mistakes, right? It's who we are as humans. But I think to your point about the feedback, right, and how we receive it, and just being open to it and not making it about ourselves, right? It's about making it about the other person, right? It's accept it, get it right, and move on. And to continue now, don't get into the, oh, I'm so sorry and all those things. Like, no, just accept it, apologize, get it right, and move the conversation forward so the relationship can develop. So you have probably had your name mispronounced or overlooked sometimes. How did that experience shape your approach to your work in inclusion?
That experience showed me the importance of slowing down. It showed me the importance of pausing and acknowledging the details. And so I'm a big picture person. Like for people who are familiar with the disc, like I'm a D, I'm a solid D. Like let's get there fast. Give me the vision, give me the goal. Like I get ramped up over that, right? And sometimes my attention to detail isn't always the best. And so even with something like a name, it challenges me to pay attention to the detail. And I like to bring that into my work. Slow down, have the conversation, make the connection, look at something extra or an additional time, delve a little deeper into the why. And I know someone listening
Mm,
might be like, you get all that from a name? Yes, because when you pause and you reflect on the times on how you felt when someone did not take the time to learn more about your name or to pronounce it, then you can connect to that feeling in everything you do. And I think that's foundationally important
mm.
in building that connection and belonging even more.
Yeah, it's really important because everybody's name has a story,
Hmm.
right? There's some, even if somebody thinks the story is simple, it's still their story in how their name was chosen, what their family name is, where does it come from. Everybody has a story to talk about their name. And so making sure that you're getting it right, make sure, as we talked about earlier, about the diction, about how are they pronouncing it, because some names may look the same, but they're pronounced very differently. And that has a major impact on folks. So it's really important that we take the time to learn about the other individual that we're having a conversation with and building a relationship with. So this is a great segue to talk about the power of belonging and the moment that you knew you belonged. And so what was the role that feedback played for you specifically that played into your moment of belonging?
Yeah, I grew up as an athlete. I was a dancer until 25 years old. I
Hmm.
ran track in college. So I thrived off of real and authentic feedback because to me, if you correct me, you care and you want to see me get
Mm,
better. And so that has been the continuing theme with feedback for me It's the love and the care and the correction. And now I feel like I belong because you care enough, you see me enough to see my unlimited potential and to see what
Yes.
barriers might be getting in the way of me achieving that potential. For me, that is one of the core foundational models of belonging. See me and see my unlimited potential and try to help me get there. And feedback is a vehicle in which to do that.
Yeah, so a little funny story of a mutual connection we have is dance. I was a dancer for many, many years, ballet, tap,
Really?
jazz, modern lyrical, taught it, yet took dance in college as my art requirement. Agriculture student. I was an agriculture major. And for my art requirement, I took modern dance 2, 3, and 4 instead of my fellow ag students taking landscape architecture as their art major. I was like, I'm gonna go do something fun. But I hear you on the feedback, right? Because I could remember the teachers who would give me feedback because they wanted me to get better. And then there were the teachers who wrote me off and didn't give me the feedback because they didn't care, right? And I also took that when I became a dance teacher and said, okay, how am I going to make sure that I am giving intentional feedback to my students, to the dancers who are performing the choreography that I want them to perform, so that they can be the best versions of themselves on stage. Feedback is so important because that's the only way that we grow.
And it builds trust.
It does
It
build
it
trust.
builds trust, especially once you've mastered the way and how to give it. It builds trust because
Mm,
now I'm trusting your words. I'm not listening to your words like this sandwich method I can't stand. I'm not listening to your
yes.
words, trying to like filter through everything to see what the real and the core message is. I can trust what you're saying. In addition to that, I can trust that what you're saying to me is what you're saying when I'm not standing there as well, and that you see the steps in which I need to take to get better. Like you said, it's about my personal best, not comparing me to someone else, because I dealt with that a lot in ballet as well. Like, I will never be the 5'10" thin ballerina with good feet. Like, that just wasn't me. I got thighs and booty and flat feet. So compare me to me, but see me, right? Going back to that belonging, me as an individual, going back to your name, like understanding my story, my goals, taking the time, and then helping me get there.
Yeah. So shifting it just a little bit, still talking about how do we create belonging. How do you help leaders create those moments of belonging for others in their organizations?
Yeah, I think it starts with curiosity. So, first,
Mm,
when I'm coaching leaders, especially executive leaders that get so bogged down in the strategy or the vision or, the benchmarking and market share and all of those things, sometimes we lose the art and the science of curiosity. And so it really starts with great questions, great open ended questions. It starts with timing, and it starts with how are you going to follow up on the information that you've received. And so we start off as something very simple, like these are the 5 questions you are going to ask. And you're going to ask this to everyone on your team. And you're going to document this and see if there are any consistent themes and patterns. And if someone mentions something that you need to notate on a calendar to follow up on, something, it could be a child's soccer game or it can be a graduation, like whatever it is, find those human touch points, because now you're looking at your team as people that work with you, not necessarily just for you. And you're seeing them as humans that just so happen are your employees versus just another cog in the wheel. So it really starts with
yeah.
intentional curiosity and beautifully crafted questions to make people think and be like, oh wow, you do notice me. The other thing I'll say, one other thing is like noticing the unspoken. So if you're
Mm,
walking into someone's office, do you notice what's on their wall or notice what's on their desk? Are you commenting on it? Are you noticing body language and nonverbals and having the courage to say something about it or ask? Because people want to be heard and seen, but not just with the words that's coming out of their mouths.
yes. Because sometimes we're going to show up and we're trying to leave it at the door, right? But we're only human. And, peeling the layer back a little bit and going, is everything okay? Right? Or some days when we're walking into the office and we're like beaming with a smile and be like, okay, somebody's having a good day. Why are they having a good day? And and be like, okay, so what happened to you? Right? We always talk about it from the recognize what's going on. Maybe they're having a bad day, but also why are they having a good day? You allow the person to be able to say, oh my God, I just did X, right? Or this thing just happened to me. And be able to celebrate the joy that they have as well and not always focusing on, oh, are you okay?
Such a great point.
So, okay, we've been just talking about joy. We're going to have to go to the flip side of that conversation and talk
Yeah.
about the moment of non-belonging, because it would not be this podcast if we only talked about the good stuff. We also have to talk about the not so good stuff. So we all face times as outsiders. So what is that one experience for you of non-belonging that taught you a valuable lesson?
Oof. I'm going to give you two quick ones. One that was experienced and one that was demonstrated. So, experienced, I was a fairly new leader on this team. I did not get along with the manager, and she made that very clear. She would do certain things over the holidays. She wanted to work really long hours. She found things funny that I didn't find funny, enjoy foods that I didn't enjoy. Like, we just did not align in many things. But instead of trying to find some commonality, she made that like a driving wedge. And because other people on the team who some felt the same way as I did just chose to fake it, and I chose not to, it made me feel ostracized on many
Mm,
occasions, like down to
mm,
the food I would bring for lunch, right? Like, so that did not feel good. And I would say the consistent thing from that was not trying to find a commonality. It was just focusing on our differences. And
mm,
so that is how I experienced it. Now, how I demonstrated it were for team members that weren't the high performers, I made
mm-hmm,
them feel excluded. Looking back,
mm,
I was not the best leader for developing talent when people were struggling. I was incredible at developing already high performers, incentivizing them, making them even better. But for those who I felt were just showing up or quiet quitting and all of those things, I did not make them feel valued. I didn't include them. I didn't give them incentives. I was very cordial and professional, but I wasn't personable. And there is a huge
mm.
difference when you are
Yes.
connecting with people on your team. So those are two examples of how I experienced it, but I also demonstrated it.
What a great moment of self-reflection, and vulnerability to be sharing that, very publicly so other people can learn from your mistakes. Because how many times have we wrote somebody off because of something, right? Either their performance or the way they showed up. I know my bias is around how people dress. And so if you're dressed really nice, I think you're a really great person and I'm going to be drawn to you. If you're showing up in PJs, I'm probably going to write you off, right? No, that's a joke. But just like for me, that is something that I have to constantly work on and make sure that I am being self-reflective in that, because I know where my bias can creep in. And so how are we making sure that we aren't intentionally excluding or creating a moment of non-belonging for others by how they're showing up? And what are we doing as a leader to help draw them out and help them know that they belong, but also thrive and succeed in the organization, because something may be holding them back that they don't even know about.
Yep. And for everyone listening, I will say if you're not sure, if you're like, "Oh, I'm not sure. I feel like I create belonging for everyone." Like, think of those team members you don't prefer. Think about those people on your team that you don't spend that much time with and have the courage to go ask them. Because those would be the people to really tell you how you're showing up, when you are a bit uncomfortable or when you are too busy. And those are the moments that's going to create exclusion on your team more so than the moments of the people that you're going to automatically think of that you spend the most time with or encourage the most.
Yeah, and do that at home too.
Oh,
I
yes.
just had this very conversation with my sons over the weekend. So also divorced, right? So navigating this co-parenting world that we're in, and had some time with my sons and said, "Hey, I want to know, how am I showing up for you? Is there ways that I can do better? Am I shutting off conversations? I just give me the honest feedback." And we had some really good dialogue about what they needed from me as dad, and where I was showing up correctly for them and where I was showing up incorrectly for them. And then be able to take that and act on it, right? So it's not just about the workplace, because one of the things I talk about is that belonging doesn't just happen at work. Belonging happens everywhere.
That's where you
And
get your practice.
yes,
You get your
yes.
practice at home and in public and everywhere. Like, that's your practicing field. Your showtime is at work. So, like, who you are regularly becomes muscle memory. So you're absolutely right.
Right. And because we believe that belonging is a birthright, we need to be making sure that we're creating cultures of belonging inside of our own home for our kids, right? Because that's gonna be the first place that they know if they belong or they don't belong. And so what are we doing to make sure that we're showing up in a way that is allowing our kids to thrive?
So good. I recently had a similar conversation with my son, and I asked him to tell me about times he felt like I wasn't listening to him. And we
Mm,
had those, not do you feel mommy listens to you? Because that's a yes or no. I'm already assuming that I fall short at times. And I think that's a level of humility similar to your questions as well. Like, when I'm not showing up the way you need me to, that's a level of humility saying, I fall short. So just tell me the moments in which I fall short so then I can work on it. But you also mentioned something that is pivotal, is then you go act on it. So it's one thing to
yes.
ask for the feedback for the people listening. I think that's an incredible part one. The part two and the bow on it is now going to shift behavior.
Yeah, and practice that at home, because you need to do that in the workplace, leaders. If you're going to ask for feedback, if you're going to ask a question on your employee engagement survey, you better be really willing to act on the not so great feedback you're getting so that you can make improvements. Because if you don't, the next time you ask that question, people aren't going to be honest, or people aren't going to fill out that survey because they're going to go, we gave you the feedback. You didn't act on it. You don't care. Why should I care about giving you more feedback?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start to bring this plane in for our landing. And so, talking about, how do we actually sustain cultures of belonging? And what does building a feedback culture keep belonging alive in organizations?
Yeah. When you're looking at your structures, it's important to see different feedback loops that you have. So whether it's 360s, whether it's engagement scores, whether it's an inbox where people can give you feedback, one-on-ones, what are those practices and how are you doing those practices consistently? Not only are you doing those practices consistently, you're also communicating to everyone. Okay. So the belonging piece also comes in with not only being able to trust the systems and the practices and it being predictable, but also communicating what you've heard and how you are improving, not when it's perfect and done, but during the process. So Harvard did a study on the neuroscience of trust, and one of the things is sharing information. Sharing information is not only when it's done, but it's the reliability of, I know I'm going to get updates from my leader, from my parent, from whoever, even if it's not completely baked or figured out. Also, when I talk about communicating across the board and to everyone, oftentimes we build exclusion with who gets information and when. And so sometimes
Mm,
we can whisper to our favorites, right? Like, they get some of the stuff before everyone else. And that starts to creep around the organization. And then you wind up creating in groups and out groups. So have a
right.
plan on how you're going to communicate, how often you're going to communicate, and the cadence in which you're going to communicate, because certain level leaders will get communication before other level leaders, but let it again be consistent across the board. And that is how you really start to create belonging. The last thing I'll say is, including people in the decision making and how you're going to communicate, what you're going to communicate, how you're going to approach a problem, how the feedback loop should be, like include people in that. So now they see themselves in the decision making. Now there's more buy-in, and that's a level of accountability as well. But if it's only unilaterally one person always making the decisions, always doing everything, that is not creating a team of belonging or a team culture and high performance either.
Yeah, no, that's really important. It's creating that feedback loop and people knowing that you're going to take action on it along the way, right?
Along the way.
Because we may get information early in the process that we could course correct so that by the end, if we're only collecting the feedback and we're not taking action on it, there are things that we could have taken action on that's going to actually make the thing better. Why aren't we doing that? Right? To not wait until the end and do the postmortem. You should be doing the postmortem, but get feedback along the way so that we can ensure that we're having the best outcome that we possibly can.
And from the people doing the job, like the people affected by the change, by whatever it is, like you need to be getting it from them because they're the ones most impacted. And also start with those who are probably not going to agree with you, that are probably going to make you the most uncomfortable. We often want to get feedback from like the groupthink people, right? The ones who are going to validate how we feel, think like we feel. And we're like, yes, we've got this. Meanwhile, you have hidden spots because you're not talking to everyone, the people that will also challenge you. And I think that creates belonging as well.
Absolutely. Okay. So beyond feedback, what is the one habit that you would tell every leader they need to do to promote inclusion and belonging on their teams?
Do you want to hear how simple this is? But I've been to organizations all over this country, and this is the consistent thing I hear: saying good morning.
Yes.
I kid you not. It does not matter if it's a manufacturing company, if it's a tech company, if it's a public defender office. Like, I am industry agnostic all over this country. That is the one consistent thing I hear. They don't say good morning. They don't inquire about how we're doing. When they come up to us, it's just business, business, business. And so I would say, though it sounds very trivial to those listening, it's a consistent theme. So when you walk in the mornings, as my Caribbean friends would be like, did I wake up with you this morning? Right? Like, so the aunties would be like, did I wake up with you this morning? That means you need to speak. Speak to every single person on your team.
Yes.
And pause, even if it's for 30 to 60 seconds, to truly say, how are you this morning? And mean it, and stick around long enough to hear a response. Right?
Yes.
Like, those small habits will make a huge difference on your team.
Oh, absolutely. I can remember in my early days when I first became a chief diversity officer, right? And one of the habits that was advised to me was say hello to everyone. We were also virtual, and then the pandemic happened, right? So we were definitely virtual. And so I made a habit of the people who I would regularly interact with was to send them a good morning message. And initially people were like, okay, what do you need? And I was like, I don't need anything. I'm just saying hello. I want to know how you are. And the other conversation I was having with them is I don't always want the time that you see my little name pop up on the IM or my name popping in your email boxes. I need something from you. I want this relationship to be more than transactional. I know we're coworkers, right? And we're here to do a job, but I don't want it to be just transactional. I want to get to know you as a person. Yeah, are we going to be the ones that are invited to the wedding? Probably not, right? But I want to be cordial. I want to be friendly. I want to get to know you as a human. And that, I would tell you, hands down, was the best feedback I got. Like, hey, do this action, because it helped me achieve more things than I ever thought I could imagine. And some of those things took a while to come to fruition. Like, it was probably 3 years later when I went to go to the VP of procurement and said, hey, could I get some money out of your budget to support this initiative? And it was because I nurtured that relationship all along the way. She was willing to be like, hey, yeah, I could find that money, right? I can hide that in my budget. It was because of the relationship I created with her. And so that's so important. I don't think it's trivial. I would not say it's trivial. It's vital to making sure that our people know that we value them.
Yes. And for those listening, if you're like, I'm a little awkward, I don't know where to start, like a great question could be, what's bringing you joy these days? Right?
Yes.
What's
Oh,
bringing you joy
yes.
these days? Because now you're going to learn more about them outside of the workplace. And it's a very simple question that can really grow deep roots into your relationship with that person. So just start off with that to every single person on your team consistently. Good morning. How are you? What's bringing you joy these days?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's fantastic and a great way to wrap up this conversation. But before we end, I am asking everybody to finish the sentence, I know I belong when. So, Ama, I know I belong when?
I know I belong when someone is listening to me and we can laugh together.
Yes. Oh my God. Listening and laughter, that's hands down, right? If you can laugh, you know you're having a good time. You know you're safe enough to be vulnerable. Especially sometimes people don't necessarily know how we laugh, and sometimes it can be awkward because, right? But listening and laughter are two very consistent themes that I am hearing from people and how they want to belong as well. Yeah, especially the listening piece. Well, friend, this has been an absolute pleasure and a great reminder that belonging is not a destination. It is a practice, and it starts with listening. Friends, if this episode has challenged you to move outside of your comfort zone, please follow our show, give us that 5-star review you know you want to give, and add a comment about what you will do to champion a culture of belonging today. These actions will help amplify the message to others, and we want to hear from you. Finish the sentence, I know I belong when, and send us a voice note. Your story could open a future episode. Thank you for listening. Know that your bold, authentic self is welcomed, valued, and loved. And until next time, remember, you belong here.